Now, today's story of my music starts with my own story of this man that I'm about to talk to was involved in a record which, when I had a dispute with a neighbour at one point, I used to threaten the neighbour with playing this record. We'll talk about that in more detail as we get to meet Chris in a minute. After it's a bit of an introduction, isn't it? After this video.
I need to get going, Mel. I'll see you later.
Chris Connelly, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Edinburgh, where you are currently residing due to your mother's poor health. But you're normally in Chicago, where the weather is much, much nicer than it is in Edinburgh at the moment.
I'll believe you. Seems about the same. Yesterday here in Edinburgh, it was pissing down with rain, though. Today it's all right. It's all right.
So, would you guess what record it was that I was talking about?
I will go with, was it a whole album or just a song?
Well, it was a whole album, but it was primarily a song from, I'll give you, it was a song from a Revolting Cocks album.
I wonder if it was Get Down from Beer, Steers and Queers.
The album was very definitely Beer, Steers and Queers, and it was
physical.
It was physical. It was the remix version.
I got it. Yeah.
Of that song, which was very much
that'll do it.
Yeah. Physical. Yeah. Fantastic.
10 minutes, I believe.
10 minutes of that. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, but my neighbour used to come in. I was in a small block of flats in Axminster. He was downstairs. He used to get in 3 o'clock in the morning, stereo up, boom, 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 boom. And I
said fuck off! What a bastard!
Yeah, absolutely. And I said to him one day, if you keep playing that, I have a song that I'm gonna that will get on your nerves.
He deserved it,
and I did. I actually put I actually had a 10K. This is the other part of the story, though. I actually had a 10K rig at the time, which I used to use in a nightclub in London. We had a club night called Abundant, and I used to haul all of this equipment from Axminster all the way to London every week.
Fucking hell!
Yeah, in a van. When you used to be able to park on double yellow lines and not get a ticket immediately.
Right.
Which is these days is complete impossibility because there's cameras everywhere. And you used to just be able to bribe. Can I say that? You used to be able to bribe parking attendants and get them and their friends into clubs. Yeah, exactly. And anyway, so I had this big PA, and I had a big bass bin that I played that song through.
Nice.
So we're not talking just out of a stereo. We're talking a lot of noise. But there you go. What a great introduction into the conversation.
I know.
So yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to say thank you whilst you're.
I'm proud to be of help.
Yeah. Do you look back fondly on that time?
I mean, I look back at it the same way as anyone looks back on their younger years. I mean, I don't take it for granted. I was very lucky that I got to do what I did, but not all of it was good. Same as, some people went to university and they had good times and bad times. I joined the Revolting Cocks, and it was kind of the same. You're interacting with a bunch of people. It was very dangerous at times. It just was. It was. The vibe was very scary at times, and I'm glad I made it out in one piece. And to be honest with you, a lot of the creative process back then was just so boring because it was technological. It was technology based, and I was working with a lot of people like Al who, had certain sort of ADHD traits where they would like focus in on one particular thing for hours and hours and days on end.
One loop.
Yeah, but you know what? Recording was like that at the juncture of the sort of mid 80s to the early 90s. At that point when technology took quite a quantum leap musically.
Yeah.
It's sort of the technology became better than the people. So there was a lot of, I mean, you've probably, as a journalist, read stories and books about bands like, the Human League really having a hard time in the studio trying to, first of all, remain contemporary, and second of all, learn how to use the technology that was at their fingertips.
Use the equipment that you've actually got.
Yeah.
Someone goes, oh, you're an electronic band, so they go, well, so we've got this new bit of kit, so let's send it to you because we'd really like you to be this bit of kit to happen on your album. And studio time is studio time. It's like, I'd love to get this on the album, but now that means I've got to sit and read a manual all night.
That's exactly right. And Paul Barker from the band is that kind of guy. He loves that kind of stuff. So thankfully we had that. But then you're left with, unlike when you're recording just your basic drum kit and your guitar and your bass and vocals and everything like that. So all of a sudden you had hundreds and hundreds of bass drums to choose from, or you could go ahead and just sample them yourself. So there was option paralysis, I think. And then it became apples and oranges. You know what I mean? It's like this bass drum sounds just as great as this bass drum, but So a lot of it was the irony of the Revolting Cocks was that it was this sort of like cyber cowboy thing, but it kind of was a laboratory as well. It was hard work a lot of the time.
It was a funny time, isn't it? I mean, bands were actually being named after bits of kit, for goodness sake. 808 State.
Yeah.
But it also it was liberating to a certain extent. Because I remember myself, having struggled with the recorder in music lessons at school and thinking, that's it, my music career is finished before I even start, because I can't play this thing fast enough.
And recorders are shite anyway.
Well, exactly that, right? Slightly behind bagpipe. Well, no, bagpipes are great if you can play them, but I wouldn't ever want to be in a house while someone's learning one. But
that's a hard thing.
But it was interesting because I grew up with computers, and I grew up, we all of us did at that age. We grew up as computers were becoming a household thing. Not like computers today, because they didn't do anything unless you actually sat and put a load of code in them. But it did liberate me, because I got dragged out of my music. I got dragged out of my maths class by my music teacher, who'd bought a Yamaha CX5M and said, we have not a diddly squat's clue what's going on here, but we've spent the money on it. Can you get it to do something? And so, I mean, for anybody that had the inclination to spend the time, it suddenly developed a whole new breed of musician who who could actually make something. And now, of course, what's happened is we've all gone back the other way. We've gone, I love all of that technology, and it's great for the recording process. Of course, it's brilliant in that, nobody has to hire, an engineer and a tape, tape engineer and a massive studio. Well, you can still do it if you want to, but you don't have to do all of that paraphernalia to actually record an album. So the technology's been brilliant from that point of view. But of course, people went, actually, I quite like guitars and singing.
Well, the thing, to me, what there is now is that it's like DIY again.
It's like very DIY.
When we used to do, like, way back in the early 80s, when you would say, I can't afford to press a record, you say, oh, fuck off, I'm going to do a cassette. I'm going to swap it with my friends. And now people can do that. You can make records at home and you can put them up on Bandcamp for free. And, I love that you can create for free again, because I went through years and years of like having to save up to go into the studio and things like that, and it costs so much money.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm really happy about that, and I have a little setup at home, and I do all my records at home, and I'm not, there's no time limit, and I can go back to things later if I want to, and it's fantastic, and I can share the files with people.
Exactly. I mean, to some extent, the whole of the music business, you can now completely DIY. Even to an extent down to distribution. I guess the only elements of it are you still got to pay somebody if you physically want to get your stuff in store, unless you hire a truck and do a but at
the same time, if you do make your own things, I mean, for me, part of the revenue of playing concerts is that I can sell my stuff at my concerts, and I do put boxes in my car and just drive there, and like all that money's mine,
Yeah, it's great.
And after years and years of sort of dealing with complete twats in the music business, thank fuck, man, because I dealt with some real pricks.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't even buy the T-shirt. That's the most annoying thing. They just turn up with the AC/DC T-shirt on, thinking they were cool. But they didn't.
Just want your backstage beer.
Yeah, they didn't even buy that. Their mum had bought it for them for Christmas. So tell me about this latest project. Why the interest in Nico in the first place?
Well, I've always loved her, and my whole love affair started with her in my teenage years. When I think about 1980, I bought the first Velvet Underground album, and it was a close friend of mine in 1980 called Cozy Fanny Tutti. From the band Throbbing Gristle. I was visiting her, and she said, well, have you ever heard Nico's solo records? And I said, I haven't. She played me Desert Shore, and it really blew my mind. And I bought that record, and then not that long afterwards, Nico actually came to Edinburgh and played, and I saw her playing. Interesting fact, the cover photo of the new album is taken from that very concert. Which was in Edinburgh on the 18th of August 1981, and I, with a few other friends, just she has a mystique about her, and I've just always adored her records. And when I was in ministry, my friend Bill Rieflin, I discovered, was a huge Nico fan too. So I recorded a song called You Forget to Answer, which is a favorite of his. And I put on an earlier record, and it was around the time Bill died. And after he died, I thought, I'm going to make some more Nico music. Bill would have loved that, and I wish he was around to collaborate. So I recorded 10 of her songs, and realized right at that moment there was a book that came out by Jennifer Otter Bickerdijk called "You're Beautiful and You're Alone," and it's the definitive Nico biography. And I befriended Jennifer, and I realized that the story is so dense and interesting that I couldn't just do her songs. I had to write a musical version of certain episodes of her life. Yeah. And so that's how it became so involved and big, and it felt like the absolute right thing to do. And so I obsessively worked on it for about a year, I think.
And it's tremendous. And I think it is the right thing to do as well. For me, Nico is one of those figures, I mean, never given enough credit.
Right.
Never. Right?
Never.
But also, you just think, especially from the alternative scene, who would actually be there now if it wasn't for Nico? That's what it is. For me, she's one of those artists, right?
Yeah.
A little bit like, to some extent, a little bit like, I don't know, people like the Pixies. Probably never, ever been, credited with enough globally. But actually, if you talk to any artist who's been bigger, they've gone, "Oh, love the Pixies." She's a similar kind of figure to me. She for me, you wouldn't, without Nico, you wouldn't have had anyone like Stina Nordenstam, for example. You wouldn't have, I don't think you would have had a Zola Jesus. I don't think you'd have any of those.
Yeah.
And
really, you still see it.
Yeah. Do you agree?
The thing, I do agree. And I think one of the things that is really interesting about Nico is that when you listen to the core of her material, she invented a kind of music that no one else was doing or has done. It was very old sounding, very medieval sounding. Yep. And the way she sang, and she taught herself. And, there were moments later on where she had a backing band and stuff like that. But the records, The End, Marble Index, and Desert Shore, of course, John Cale had a lot to do with it. But he was just a genius at seeing what she had and drawing it out of her and embellishing that. She played the harmonium, which meant that the music had to be droney, okay? So it immediately sounded medieval. And her voice was kind of an extension of the harmonium as well. And it's funny because I bought a harmonium before I made the record and realized how much your body has to be in tune with the harmonium for it to work properly. So the rhythm of your body becomes the rhythm of the instrument, which becomes the rhythm of your voice. And I hear that in her music. You can't do that with a rock band, It was her sound and it was her personality and her view. Definitely not cheerful, but it was her view. And I think that she is such an honest artist because she kind of carried this burden from World War II forward, from growing up in a completely destroyed city and carrying that weight with her.
And it's not that, it's not that other more well-known artists haven't had weight behind them.
No, of course.
But it's just, for me, it's the alternative nature of it as well, I think, more than anything. Because I mean, there's been great artists like, great female artists like Joni Mitchell or Carole King, whose writing was, important in terms of establishing female singer-songwriters, etc. But that kind of, and it's not even the gravitas, because the gravitas is there in people like Joni Mitchell, but it's actually the willingness to sort of step out of any kind of conventional style that's like, something that everybody's going to like this as a pop tune somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
She wasn't.
I mean, you got
with that.
It's interesting, isn't it wonderful how back in the day, Reprise Records and Elektra Records were willing to take a bet on that. I mean, can you imagine a major label now? This junkie with a harmonium is going to make it. Okay, great. Here's a blank check. But I'm glad she had that support earlier on. And I'm glad because when she did that record, Chelsea Girl, I mean, it was MGM in America, and Polydor over here, I believe. They were looking for a new, I don't know, flower child girl singer, right?
Yeah, Joan Baez.
Yeah, and they didn't get it at all. And Nico hated that record. And, she was booted off the label, but then she got signed to Elektra, probably because John Cale persuaded them. And she made the Marble Index. The Marble Index is one of the darkest records ever made. I mean, forget it. That is where goth came from. That's where the whole gothic look and, the whole down-tempo droning sound came from, for sure. So yeah, she was unprecedented and carried that forward. To me, it's a real sadness that her career was in tandem with an addiction. And it made it is what it is, and that's who she was as an artist. I just wish there was more of her, and that she hadn't have been kicked to the curb so much by being a junkie. But those records would not have happened if she wasn't a junkie. So there's not much to be said about that, but it's a real shame.
Yeah, well, that always is, but it's you have to celebrate the music and the life for what it was, as opposed to what it could have been. But yeah, you've done a tremendous job on this, and it's it's quite a listen. Anybody else involved in the album at all?
Yeah, my friend Chris Bruce produced it. As always, he's produced many of my records. But apart from that, it's all me. He plays. In the first song, there's a guitar solo, and I really wanted a guitar solo, and I said, "But Chris, I can't play guitar solos. Can you please?" And so he did this great guitar solo for me. But apart from that, it's all me. He changed some of the sounds, but I had a really nice time messing around with the harmonium, which is, it runs on air. It's a pump organ. And so I had a really good time sort of messing around with ways of miking it up and affecting it and making it sound like a storm, or it's a versatile thing. So most of it is just me mucking around in my own studio, looking for the right sounds.
I'm guessing, Chris, that your great ambition for this record is that people will listen to it who listened to Chris in the past, or know you and the projects you've been involved with, and therefore will listen to it, but will then go out and buy everything by Nico. Is that your great ambition for this?
I really would like that. I would like for people to get a deeper understanding of who she is. And I know a lot of people do, but a lot of people just listen to her superficially.
Yeah.
And I think there's just so much more to get out of her. And, because she died young and because she was a heroin addict, there's only a few records you can buy, but those records are just so choice. They're so fucking wonderful. The only thing that I'm disappointed about with this album is that I've done it, because I really want to do it again.
Do it again. Oh man. Now, so tell me, is this going to be available on any kind of physical format, or is it just going to be available for download?
No, it's coming out on CD as well.
Brilliant.
It's coming out November 11th. I'm with a label called Easy Action here in the UK.
Okay, cool.
Have you heard of that label?
I have heard of that label. In terms of sort of sleeve notes, will you be talking about her life at all? Giving your kind of view on that in the sleeve notes?
Yeah, I've written an essay about how I came to her music, and also she used to live in Edinburgh. There's a bit about that. How
Synergy.
I wasn't a stalker, but I knew where she lived. Me and my friends used to stand across the road waiting for her. But also the author of the book You're Beautiful and You're Alone, Jennifer Otter Bickerdijk, has written an essay for the sleeve notes as well. So yeah. And also I printed the lyrics to my song, which kind of tell the story as well through poetry.
Now listen, I'm very, very keen on, and I do it all of the time, because all I tend to read are sort of musical biographies.
Me too.
I'm very, right, there you go. That's two of us. I'm very keen when I'm reading a biography. I'm very keen on immersing myself in the music while I'm reading it. Is that something you would recommend for this? I would
absolutely, because I got so much out of Jennifer's book.
Yeah,
there's so many anecdotes in there that will make Nico's life make more sense, and also make the record make more sense. I think it's a good thing to do. And I still listen to Nico on repeat all the time. And I'm sad because I've read every book there is about her.
Well, there you go, folks. That's a double whammy for Christmas. That's both parts of the stocking taken care of. So you need to buy the book. Just mention the book title again.
You Are Beautiful and You Are Alone by Jennifer Otter Bickerdijk.
And that's available where?
Everywhere.
Amazon.
I mean, you get it at Waterstones, anywhere.
Okay. And then also the music is going to be available. Where's the best place to get the music from, Chris?
Well, you can buy it straight from easyaction.com. The label is Easy Action, but it's going to be available at FOP or wherever you go shopping for records in the UK, and you can buy it from Amazon and blah blah blah, all these places.
So there you go. You can stand on the corner of Shaftesbury Avenue and get it, or you can
go to
the website. Or other good record shops are available, but they're hidden all over the place. So
yes, they are.
we can't name all of them, but now it's been a pleasure talking to you today, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Do go and investigate this album. The album is called
Eulogy to Krista.
What a beautiful title. People will not be able to forget that. Eulogy to Krista. Do go and find it. Check it out online. Go and buy the physical CD. And next time you see Chris somewhere, buy one of his T-shirts.
Please do.
yeah, and don't be an arse. There we go. So until next time, we'll be back another week with another My Music. But today it's been Chris talking to me. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Take care. Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.